The store of the future is not digital. It's actually intelligent. Live from EuroShop, this is Rethink Retail, and I am Martin Bailie. And today we're diving into the question that sits to the center of every retail strategy in the world. If stores are now packed with technology, why are so many of them underperforming? For years, the industry has invested in digital transformation, more tools, more data, more dashboards, and yet the store teams are working harder than ever. Campaign execution is inconsistent. Inventory is still misallocated, and the performance gaps between each store is just getting larger. So maybe it's not about more digital. In fact, it's just more about intelligence. And that's the idea behind the self-optimization store and the big question that we're asking today. Is it actually possible? In this conversation, we're going to cover why in-store technology often underdelivers, the difference between AI that creates more reporting rather than actually drives growth, and why new layer execution intelligence is emerging to close that execution gap that I spoke about earlier on. So we're going to start today and have a good conversation. I think it's probably best that we get into the details straight away. So maybe just to start us off is maybe talk about what you believe is one great example of retail transformation and a good transformation story. And then what is one myth of retail that we need to satisfy either today or another time?
I think one of the big things that we see today is really trying to understand where technology comes in as a layer within the retail space. And does it really drive value, right? And what does value mean in brick and mortar retail? In terms of, convenience, finding the right product at the right price, etc. And I think the myth that we see in the industry is the fact that more technology means that we're going to solve that problem.
Yeah.
But I think in reality, what's often happening is the technology is kind of brought into the workplace, into the environment. The store associates are not sure what to do with it. How does it fit in? How doesn't it? And if anything, I always worry that it might distract them from actually working with the customer and providing service. But I think the positive aspect is maybe the idea of right sizing things like inventory, making sure you have the right products at the right price at the right time. And so that availability of products that you do walk into the store, you can find what you're looking for. And I think that's where it could be used in the right way. But the idea that it's going to solve all your problems as a magic bullet, I think that's the big challenge.
Yeah, I agree with you. You should always start with your pinpoints rather than all the points.
Yes, yes. And we try to solve all the points at once. Like just we'll spend some money and throw that in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think people in in organizations at the executive level often find these really shiny, cool new things and want to implement them in store to solve all their problems. And it's about not only picking the right one or piloting it, it's also about having the back end support, right? Because unless you take that information and you designate a human being to manage that, you're going to have a challenge trying to optimize and maximize the impact and harness the power of those tools to better your business and ensure that in the end, it's better for the customer.
So I like the point around the harness and the power, but the human-centric side of it, human in the loop is vital, obviously. We're retailers.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think human-centric retailing is really important, but it's all about storytelling at the end of the day. So I think for me, looking at where the intelligence sits, I think everybody thinks it's meant to sit in the technology, but it's not. Your intelligence sits within your strategy.
Yep.
Your planning around your strategy, understanding where you want to get to with your technology and how you're installing it, and understanding that roadmap and your longevity behind it, and what insights you're getting back that allows you to do that loop again and feedback and then go again and understanding how you're evolving that. And the thing we were talking about earlier, adopter technology here. Don't always go for the first thing that pops up. That's a novelty. Wait until you think that the right thing at that time and gives you what you need for your strategy. And if you understand your customer, you understand what human retailing means, and you understand your strategy.
When you talk about strategy, any transformation essentially is a cultural transformation because new ways of working.
Sure.
And that's human in the loop is required. Can you really localize without changing an org structure? Because that is the mix of strategy, cultural transformation, but delivering at the same time.
The way companies are set up today is actually designed to actually support the way they want to do the model. I find it very interesting because the silos that Marc had mentioned earlier exist in retail, and they're not flexible and dynamic enough to support how they want to run their stores. And you can't have all these different layers that don't talk to each other.
Right.
And you have your marketing, you have retail ops, you have your corporate store team, etc. But no one's on the same page. Everyone's jockeying for space. I do think this is also where technology does kind of bridge it. This idea of kind of unifying everybody under, a certain platform, so everybody sees the same dashboard, so everyone sees the same performance. So John in marketing, wants to put this offer up. Marc is trying to generate more sales or is worried about too many overtime on his staff members, etc. We can see what's working and what's not and calibrate. The person who makes that decision or team that makes that decision or what we should do, I think that's where the org structure has to change, because it can't happen quickly enough in a committee environment. Somebody has to kind of make that call without worrying about the repercussions if sales tend to dip briefly, which often seems to be the case. Yeah.
Sales versus marketing.
Sales versus marketing. Yeah.
I've seen that.
Have you got an AI tool for that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift it up a bit.
Sure.
Okay, if that's okay. And look at the broader horizons. You talked about AI is bridging the gap. But what is the future of retail?
There's that lunch bag letdown sometimes when you get into store and you're not getting as much information because the rep hasn't necessarily kept up with all the information that people got online. But certainly to be able to recognize what Martin or whomever was looking at prior and empowering that rep in store to have access to that information that customer might have been looking into, so that they can sort of layer on and add value in the in-store shopping experience. But it's just finding that right balance between a great overall experience versus with, too far out there with digital, right? Because I've seen that extreme as well, is that they expect everything to come through in a digital format.
So maybe to hone in on what you were talking about, do you need every product available? Is the planogram still the center of retail, or is it performance is the center of retail?
I think everything has its place. And I think the planogram is really important for communicating with your front line and ensuring that they understand what product is going to go where based on what the insights are saying. And that essentially, if they are following through on the planogram, the comms works, you are getting that communication. You're getting the frontline are actually engaging with the communication, because that's one of the biggest things is training on engagement. And I've worked in retailers where engagement was so low that you had to really drive that engagement to get that interaction with the platform. If you can get that working as a brilliant ecosystem, then you'll see the benefits coming back in terms of performance and sales lifting, service lifting, frontline colleagues or advisors feeling more engaged with the brand and the product themselves. And I think that you have to have this, and it goes back to strategy again, because it's not just about, it doesn't, and like the S word is there for sure, but it's not just about a merchandising strategy, it's about a retail strategy and having a clear view from top down.